Bonjour everyone, Martin here, and welcome back to another Top 10 video. This time, we're continuing our little chain. We're back with Pokemon. If you missed my previous Pokemon list, click my channel to check them out. But now, let's head back east a little to Kalos. Some basic rules for the list. Number 1 is obvious, but only the 72 Pokemon introduced in Gen 6 will be counted. 2. This is based on my personal time with these Pokemon, i.e. training, using them throughout the game, etc. 3. Remember that this is my own personal list, so if your favorite isn't on here, don't tear yourselves up about it. With all that out of the way, let's get started. The legendary Pokemon that can share eternal life, and the mascot for Pokemon X, Xerneas, starts off this list. This was a special sort of Pokemon to see, since Pokemon X was my first game in Gen 6, and with it being Fairy type, a brand new typing to the Pokemon series in general, it certainly caught my eye really quick. With a high offensive and HP stats, it can really pack a punch. And it being a pure Fairy type, it only has 2 weaknesses to deal with. Now, let's move on to the attacks. From level up, we have moves like Aurora Beam, Horn Leech, Mega Horn, Night Slash, Moon Blast, Close Combat, Outrage, and its signature move, Geomancy, which raises its weaker stats of special attack, defense, and speed by 2 stages. For TMs, we got moves like Rock Slide, Thunder Wave, Draining Kiss, and Smart Strike. There's also some tutor moves like Misty Explosion and Terrain Pulse from the expansion pass. And for TRs, we have moves like Psyshock, Thunderbolt, Focus Blast, Psychic, Grass Knot, Flash Cannon, Thunder, Zen Headbutt, and Dazzling Gleam. Xerneas might have a lot at his disposal, but due to me only using it in the one playthrough, and I didn't use it for that long in the first place, it couldn't make it that high into the list. Pokemon said trans rights. The newest evolution, and one of the first revealed Fairy-type Pokemon introduced in Gen 6, Sylveon takes my number 9 spot. Sylveon was another interesting Pokemon to try and obtain, having a really unique evolution method, but once I got it, it was a really good Pokemon to use. With the high special stats, it can make use of the Fairy moves to get a lot of damage in. And speaking of moves, let's see what kind it has. From level up, we have moves like Disarming Voice, Swift, Moonblast, Draining Kiss, and Last Resort. For TMs, we got moves like Magical Leaf, Weather Ball, Hyper Beam, Dig, Retaliate, and Mystical Fire. There's also some breeding and tutor moves like Double Kick, Mud Slap, and Misty Explosion. And for TRs, we got moves like Psyshock, Iron Tail, Body Slam, Shadow Ball, and Play Rough. While not having the most extensive moveset, Sylveon is still a good Pokemon to have around. But when compared to the other Pokemon on the list, it just couldn't get much higher than this. Might be a little off topic, but I really like chess. Not. final evolution of the grass starter Pokemon Chespin, Chestnut takes my number 8 spot. While I haven't chosen Chespin all that much in my Pokemon Y runs, that didn't stop it from being a really good Pokemon on my team. While this Pokemon is a bit slow, it has high physical and HP stats that hit really hard. However, it does have 6 weaknesses, the most of any starter Pokemon, and has a ×4 weakness to flying types, which is a fairly common type. So let's try and counter those weaknesses with some attacks. From level up, we have moves like Vine Whip, Bite and Pin Missile for psychic types, Roll Out for fire and flying types, Seed Bomb, Mud Shot for poison types, Body Slam, Wood Hammer, Hammer Arm for ice types, and what once was its signature move, Spiky Shield. For TMs, we got moves like Dragon Claw, Smackdown, Earthquake, Aerial Ace, Low Sweep, Rock Tomb, Shadow Claw, Gyro Ball, Stone Edge, Payback, Bulldoze, Poison Jab, and Giga Impact. There's also breeding and tutor moves like Power Up Punch, Drain Punch, Dual Chop, Iron Head, Stomping Tantrum, Thunder Punch, Iron Tail, Zen Headbutt, Grass Pledge, and, of course, Frenzy Plant. While very powerful and having a large selection of moves, the low speed, large amount of weaknesses, and mainly me using it so few times, couldn't help it make it much higher on the list.
Death walks among you.
The legendary Pokemon that can absorb the life force of living creatures, and the mascot for Pokemon Y, Yveltal, takes my number 7 spot. While I did choose Pokemon X as my first Gen 6 game, that didn't stop me from getting Pokemon Y and liking this legendary that little bit more. In terms of stats, it actually has the same stats as Xerneas, with high offensive and HP stats to really do some damage. And while it does have 2 more weaknesses than Xerneas, it does have 1 immunity over Xerneas. Now, let's get to the attacks. From level up, we got moves like Dark Pulse, Hurricane, Phantom Force, Air Slash, Foul Play, Dragon Rush, Psychic, Sucker Punch, Focus Blast, Hyper Beam, Sky Attack, and its signature move, Oblivion Wing, which heals Yveltal by 75% of the damage dealt onto the opponent. For TMs, we got moves like Steel Wing, Shadow Claw, Rock Slide, Fly, U-Turn, and Acrobatics. There's also some tutor moves like Knock Off, Duo Wing Beat, and Lash Out. And for TRs, we got moves like Dragon Claw, Shadow Ball, Heat Wave, and Zen Headbutt. Yveltal is a really good Pokemon and legendary with a bit more attack variety than Xerneas. But despite having it more often than Xerneas, it couldn't make it much higher than this. I still like it though. Hopefully people who see this won't throw a tyrantrum. One of the fossil Pokemon introduced in Gen 6, Tyrantrum, takes my number 6 spot. It took a while, but we finally got a T-Rex fossil Pokemon, and it's certainly a hard hitter. With the physical stats being the highest it has, it can do a lot of damage head-on. But it does lack in the specials and speed stats, along with having a fair amount of weaknesses, so let's go over some attacks to help even the odds. From level up, we got moves like Rock Slide, Stomp, Bite, Ancient Power, Dragon Tail, Thrash, Crunch, Earthquake, Head Smash, Dragon Claw, and the one-hit KO move, Horn Drill. For TMs, we got moves like Rock Tomb, Aerial Ace, Brutal Swing, Brick Break, Bulldoze, the Fang moves listed on screen, Stomping Tantrum, and Breaking Swipe. There's also some breeding and tutor moves like Poison Fang, Flash Out, Meteor Beam, Scale Shot, and Draco Meteor. And for TRs, we got moves like Outrage, Dark Pulse, Dragon Dance, Stone Edge, Dragon Pulse, Superpower, Zen Headbutt, Iron Head, Poiruff, High Horsepower, Psychic Fangs, and Iron Tail. While a good fossil Pokemon, and not too bad for being one of the only Dragon Rock type Pokemon, it couldn't get much higher than this. Care for a bouquet? The Pokemon that can create entire flower gardens, Florges takes my number 5 spot. Florges was a fairly recent favorite, having it be in one of my later Pokemon Y runs, and it was one of the best Pokemon on my team. With the high special stats, with the special defense being the highest, this Pokemon can take a fair amount of damage and dish some back onto the opponent. And being a pure fairy type, it only has the 2 weaknesses and the immunity to dragon types. Now, let's get to the attacks. From level up, we have moves like Fairy Wind, Razor Leaf, Wish, Magical Leaf, Petal Blizzard, Petal Dance, Solar Beam, and Moon Blast. For TMs, we got moves like Sunny Day to help out Solar Beam, Psychic, Energy Ball, Grass Knot, and Dazzling Gleam. There's also some tutor moves like Giga Drain, Heal Bell, Seed Bomb, and Synthesis. While it may not have a lot for coverage and not enough to make it any higher than this, Florges has enough to make it into my top 5. This next one's coming in hot. The Pokemon that can fly at speeds of 310 miles per hour, Talonflame takes my number 4 spot. Being the beginner bird Pokemon of Kalos, this Pokemon is no doubt a part of a lot of people's teams, and I'm no exception. It's been on multiple teams of mine, being included in both my X run and one of my Y runs. And it was certainly a good Pokemon to have on my team each time. Given the speed feat earlier, speed is the highest stat it has, with the other stats being fairly even with each other. And if you have its signature ability Gale Wings, it gives priority to flying type moves, although it does have to be at full HP for it to work in Gen 7 onwards. Speaking of moves, let's go over some attacks. Yet another great segue. From level up, we have moves like Flame Charge, Acrobatics, Ember, Aerial Ace, Steel Wing, Fly, Flare Blitz, Roost, and Brave Bird. For TMs, we got moves like U-Turn, Will-O-Wisp, the Sunny Day Solar Beam combo, and Giga Impact. And for TRs, there's moves like Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Heat Wave, and Hurricane. There's also the move Dual Wing Beat via the Isle of Armor move tutor. Talonflame is certainly a good Pokemon to have on your team, especially for being the beginner bird Pokemon of the region. But even with everything it has at its disposal, it couldn't make it much higher than this. I still like it though. There have been many Dragon-type Pokemon. So here's another for Gudra measure. Pseudo-legendary Pokemon for Gen 6, Gudra takes my number 3 spot. While I haven't used this one much, since it takes a while to level up and it needs natural rain to evolve a Sliggoo into Gudra, this Pokemon definitely has the power to give it the pseudo-legendary title. With the high attack and special stats, but low speed, it's a slow tank that can do a lot of damage. And being a pure Dragon type, it only has 3 weaknesses to deal with. And like Talonflame, Gudra's evolutionary line has a signature hidden ability, Gooey. No, not that Gooey. The ability Gooey. With Gooey, any attacks that make contact with Gudra lower the attacker's speed stat by 1 per hit. So if you use Fury Swipes, that's a fair amount of lost speed. Now, let's get to the attacks. From level up, we got moves like Aqua Tail, Water Pulse, Acid Spray, Dragon Pulse, Body Slam, Rain Dance, Poison Tail, Mighty Water, and Power Whip. For TMs, we got moves like Weather Ball, Mud Shot, Brutal Swing, Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, Mega Punch, Mega Kick, Stomping Tantrum, and Breaking Swipe, with Skitter Smack and Draco Meteor via Move Tutor. And for TRs, we got moves like Flamethrower, Surf, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Sludge Bomb, Outrage, Iron Tail, Superpower, Focus Blast, Sludge Wave, and Earthquake. Gudra is a really powerful Pokemon, but having only used it once in Gen 7, I don't really have much experience with using it to make it much higher than this. But that one time was enough to have it take 3rd place. Remember when I said do not mess with Mother Nature? Well, here's a better reason not to. The protector of the ecosystem and the final legendary Pokemon of the Aura Trio, Zygarde takes my number 2 spot. While fairly hidden in the Pokemon X and Y games, and fairly prominent in the Gen 7 games, it was certainly a surprise to the people first finding it, and definitely a tease for the non-existent Pokemon Z. With the fairly even stats, with a focus on the physical and HP stats, it can be a fairly mixed bag, but that isn't even its final form. It has a 10% form and a complete form with different stats from the original 50% form. The 10% form takes the form of a type of dog, and while it has a lower HP and special attack stats, it puts those numbers into the speed stat to help it get better hits in. And the complete form doesn't detract much from the other stats, but it has a huge increase to the HP stats for a second bout when the normal form gets below half HP when it has the ability Power Construct. In being a dragon ground type, it has 3 weaknesses to deal with at times for a weakness to ice, but it does have immunity to electric types. Now, let's get to the attacks. From level up, we have moves like Bulldoze, Dragon Breath, Bite, Earthquake, Dragon Pulse, Dig, Crunch, Outrage, and one of its signature moves, Land's Wrath. For TMs, we got moves like Brick Break, Rock Slide, Stomping Tantrum, and Breaking Swipe, with some tutor moves like Shockwave, Scale Shot, Scorching Sands, Skitter Smack, and Draco Meteor. And for TRs, we got moves like Iron Tail, Stone Edge, Dragon Tail, Superpower, Sludge Wave, High Horsepower, Focus Blast, and Zen Headbutt. But that's not where the moves end, because when collecting the Zygarde cores, it can help it learn more moves. With 5 total, it can learn the moves Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, and the last 3 of its signature moves, 1000 Waves, 1000 Arrows, and Core Enforcer. Zygarde is a pretty powerful Pokemon, and a great one to have in your team. But with a lot of this power being locked until the next generation, and it just being kind of there in Pokemon X and Y, it couldn't really get that extra push to number 1. But it can sit proud at my 2nd place spot. Before we get to number 1, here's some quick honorable mentions. Put here because it was my first starter Pokemon from Pokemon X, but in all honesty, I used the event Blaziken more so than Delphox, so honorable mention it is. Good fire type when I didn't have one on my team, but nothing really much going for it beyond that. Useful for the start of the game, and the pattern detail is really neat, but I haven't used the Satan Pokemon much in battle beyond the first gym. The final evolution of the last starter Pokemon, as well as a fighter in Super Smash Bros., Greninja takes my number 1 spot. Yeah, it wasn't a huge surprise to have Greninja take my number 1, as a lot of people can say it's one of the biggest fan favorites from Gen 6. I mean, it was voted Pokemon of the Year for 2020 in both Kalos and in overall Pokemon, and it has good reason for it. With the high speed and offensive stats, it can get some quick damage in against the opponent. And when it has the Battle Bond ability and turns into Ash Greninja, each of those stats gets a large increase to deal even more damage at greater speeds. While yes, it does have a fair amount of weaknesses, it has a speed and attacks to help cover some ground. So let's see what it's got. From level up, we have moves like Night Slash, Substitute, Water Pulse, Shadow Sneak, Feint Attack, Extra Sensory, Lick, Hydro Pump, Mat Block, one of its former signature moves, and its most identifiable signature move, Water Shuriken. For TMs, we got moves like Ice Beam, Aerial Ace, Rock Slide, U-Turn, Surf, Brutal Swing, Rock Tomb, Waterfall, Acrobatics, Dark Pulse, and Scald. There's also some breeding and tutor moves like Power Up Punch, Toxic Spikes, Bounce, Gunk Shot, Ice Punch, Icy Wind, Water Pledge, and, of course, Hydro Cannon. With the right moves, Greninja can be a dangerous Pokemon to go up against any team, and it definitely had enough to take my number 1 spot for all of Kalos. And that's my list. Hope you enjoyed. Have a different opinion? Leave your favorites in the comments below. And until next time, see ya!